Add fractions with unlike denominators. So this problem states that Reese and Stella are organizing a walk for charity. Reese's group has picked up litter along the walk route for 5/6 of a mile. Stella's group has picked up litter for 1/4 of a mile. How many miles of litter have the two groups cleaned up? Okay, so in this problem, we need to find out how much the groups have picked up altogether. So we know the fraction of miles picked up by Reese's group is 5/6 of a mile, okay? And then the fraction of miles of litter picked up by Stella's group is 1/4 of a mile. All right? So, to find the fraction, okay, of miles, the two groups cleaned all together will equal 5/6 plus 1/4. Okay? So our total miles will be 5/6 plus 1/4. All right. Now if we look at 5/6 and 1/4, they have unlike denominators. So to add them first, we need to rename them as fractions with a common denominator. So our first step in solving this problem is we need to rename using the least common denominator. Okay? So the least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators. All right? So if we take our first fraction, 5/6, the denominator is 6. So we need to find the multiples of 6, which are 6, 12, 18, and 24. Let's take our next fraction, 1/4. The denominator is 4. So we need to find the multiples of 4. And the multiples of 4 would be 4, 8, 12, 24. So the least common multiple of 4 and 6 is 12. So our least common multiple is 12, which means we need to rename 5/6 and 4/5 using the least common denominator, because the least common denominator, remember, is the least common multiple of the denominator. So the LCM is also our LCD, okay, which is 12. So let's go ahead and begin our renaming. So let's rename 5/6 first. So we're going to rename 5/6. So 5/6, we're going to start off by renaming it by adding, or I'm not adding, multiplying it by 1. Now, to get 6 to the least common denominator, or 12, we need to multiply 6 by 2. So 1 whole would be equivalent to 2 over 2. So we're going to multiply 5/6 by 2 over 2. And when we do that, we get 10/12. Okay? Because 5 times 2 is 10, 6 times 2 is 12, 5/12. Now let's rename 1/4. All right? And to do that, we're going to take 1/4 times 1. And here, to get 4 to equal 12, we need to multiply it by 3. So 1 whole would be 3 over 3. So we're going to take 1/4 times 3/3. When we do that, we get 3/12. Now that we have renamed our lowest common denominator, our second step is to add. All right? So we're going to add the numerators, and then we're going to retain the denominators. Okay? So our original problem was 5/6 plus 1/4. And now that we renamed them, 5/6 is 10/12. and we're going to be adding the rename of 1/4, which is 3/12. Okay, so now we're adding 10/12 plus 3/12. So when we do that, remember the numerators, we add the numerators, not the denominators. So we're adding 10 plus 3, and that will be over 12. And we get 13/12. Now, our last step is always to simplify. So to simplify, we have 13/12, right? So we're going to take a whole out of 13/12 to simplify. So I know that, remember, 1 whole is equal to 12/12, right? So I'm going to take 12/12 out, and when I do that, I have 1 left. All right? So 13/12 is the same as 12/12 plus 1/12. Okay? Now, 12/12, remember, is a whole, so that becomes 1 plus 1/12, which equals 1 and 1/12. All right? So 1 and 1/12 is our answer. So how many miles of litter have the two groups cleaned up? The two groups have cleaned up 1 and 1/12 miles of litter. All right, things to remember and to keep in mind is that to add fractions, so when we're adding fractions with unlike denominators, okay, we need to first rename the fraction with a common denominator, and then we need to find the sum. So we first rename. Okay? To rename the fractions as fractions with the common denominator, we need to rename using the least common denominator. Remember that the least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators.